Originally, my plan for this video was to talk about what class I thought had become the worst since the new Prestige update. However, when I started making that video, I ended up kind of realizing that I felt like all the classes were in a relatively good spot, and I have infinitely more good things to say about all the classes in Space Marine 2 than what, honestly, I do bad. So instead, I wanted to talk about the two classes in particular that I really don't use a whole lot anymore, or really only just to kind of mix things up because maybe I've felt a little stale running the other four in that. And that is the Tactical and the Assault. So we're going to start off with the Tactical here because that's the class that you're seeing in the gameplay background. Also, the gameplay is just on average. I noticed I was missing like one little piece of green armory data and just figured I'd max it out because, well, I don't know, there's just felt like something was wrong only showing 19. But anyways, so the Tactical class, I would say when this game first came out, was probably my favorite class. However, anymore, I really don't touch it a whole lot unless I find that I'm in a lobby with people that, I need something that's extremely well-rounded. And honestly, I think that's why, even after the Prestige update, this continues to be one of my least used classes. There's nothing wrong with it. I think it's a really fun class to play as. However, it's essentially Space Marine 2's default class. And there's nothing wrong with that because every game needs that class that's super easy for new players to pick up. And this class does that extremely well. Again, it's really fun. All the classes in this game are. It's really fun. But again, it's also kind of generic compared to a lot of the other classes in the game. So for me, Tactical, this is the perfect class where, hey, maybe you're a new player, maybe you just finished the campaign and you're looking to get into either Eternal War or Operations. This is a class I would immediately recommend for somebody who's just starting off in that. And the main reason for that is I feel this is the perfect one to learn and really master a lot of the basics on. That way, whenever you switch over to something, whether it be like the Heavy, Vanguard, or even the Sniper in that, you have a pretty good idea of the basic fundamentals in that and just how the game works. From there, it makes it easier to kind of learn all the little nuances with all the other classes because you already have the basics down pat. The other thing, too, though, that I do like about the Tactical is it's extremely well-rounded. It's that jack of all trades, master of none. And to me, that's where I don't want to say I've lost interest in it, but I think that's why it's one of the classes that I use the least. Is just because with every other class, there's something that it does really, really well in spades. And with the Tactical, I don't get that same feeling in that. I can do ranged combat really well, I could do melee combat really well, but am I going to do ranged combat as well as the Sniper? No. Am I going to do melee as well as Bulwark? No. But that's completely fine. Again, I feel like this is the perfect class for the beginners to pick up and really start to enjoy all the extra content that comes with Space Marine 2. Again, it's not a bad class. I love it. It's really fun to play as. Also, I feel that a lot of the prestige perks for it have been really good. I currently don't have this one maxed out just yet, but it is something that I'm working on. And honestly, the entire time I've been playing it again, I've had a really fun time. But I know that once I complete the prestige perks for it, it's really going to be that class that I'll just run when, hey, I know the current team that I'm with, they need someone who's going to be able to kind of perform well in any particular area because maybe either they're just not as well equipped to play on some of the higher difficulties, or maybe they've just overly specialized in one form of combat, whether that be close range or long range. So again, for me, this is that jack of all trades class that I can pick up, whenever I'm going to have a good time with it. But it just doesn't do anything super special compared to the other ones for me. And I really just appreciate all the nuances to all the little classes and even how they play so wildly different from one another. Now, the other class that's kind of fallen into that same area, and I'm not sure which one I would kind of put as my least played, because I feel like I play them just about the same, so that's why we're actually talking about two in this video, would be the Assault. So for me, the Assault has always been that class where it's just kind of fun to shut your brain off and, you know, flip on the monkey brain and watch the big hammer go boom. Now, there's nothing wrong with it. The Assault does really well. And again, I've seen people beat Absolute with it. I know I've at least cleared lethal missions. I don't think I've actually ever run the Assault on Absolute myself. But again, I've run into a lot of people that can do a lot of really great things with that class. For me personally, though, I just kind of feel that when I'm playing a melee class, granted, Bulwark's probably my favorite, and so I think that, you know, I naturally gravitate towards that. But for me, the Assault kind of got the short end of the stick when it comes to the prestige perks, and I think that's what's dropped it out of favor for me a little bit. Again, it's still a really good class, super fun to play as. I just don't personally enjoy it as much as some of the other ones. But again, like I said, I feel that's mostly because with a lot of the other classes that we see in this game, the prestige perks, either one, allowed them to do, you know, kind of their intended role even better, or some of the, for classes like the heavy and those prestige perks, they really cover down a lot on some of the inherent weaknesses to the class. And I feel like they tried to do that with the Assault class, but I don't feel like they did it as well. So some of my initial gripes with it, they're still a very real thing. And for me, my gripes with it have always been that, just like the Bulwark, whenever you get into melee combat, a lot of times you're still really susceptible to range damage. And I'm going to be honest, this is where maybe just like there's some personal bias that kicks in, but I've kind of felt a lot of times that I've really been getting screwed over with a lot of ranged enemies and all that. I don't know what it is, but there just seems to be a lot of times that I'll join into a game as a melee focused class, and it just seems like the director decides, well, better just give them, you know, 5 or 6 snipers at a time. That's the only way to really balance it out, or something along those ends. And that's where, to me, some of the prestige perks in there just kind of let that class down in particular. So I have noticed that I know once you at least get past first prestige, you do have a couple perks that definitely increase your survivability. But if I recall correctly, and I can't remember the names of the perks offhand, but I know for the one, as long as you're like mobbed by more than 5 enemies at a time, you get like a 15% damage reduction. The other two are just so specific that I just don't feel like I get a whole lot of value from them like I do other perks with other classes, which is okay, because ultimately, like, I don't want classes in here to feel like they're just extremely overpowered and busted. You know, I feel like the game already does a pretty good job of like, hey, this class is intended for this is where it really shines. But, you know, if you go any further, or if you try to push the boundaries of what the class was intended to do, like, you're going to get some mixed results, and you're going to see that a lot more on some of the higher difficulties in that. But the other two perks essentially allow you to recharge your jump pack, which is phenomenal. I know the Assault can naturally recharge it, especially if you're smashing Minoris enemies. But once you start getting on some of those higher difficulties, like I would honestly say Ruthless and above, especially if you're just trying to nail Majoris with your ground pound, you're not always going to be able to recharge it, so I think having additional ways was a good idea. I just don't like the fact that the only way that you can really do it is by picking up armor boosts or reviving teammates, because I'll be honest with you, a lot of times in that, I would say it's more of a rarity whenever I'm playing a game and somebody goes down. So I know simply because of that, you know, that's a perk that, unless that opportunity like presents itself, which is maybe like 1 out of every 5 games, myself or somebody else will go down. Granted, a lot of it too does depend on the difficulty, but even running lethal primarily now, I've noticed myself and even other teammates in that going down less and less frequently. I just think the community as a whole has gotten a lot better with the game. you know, there's always going to be the sweats in that play at the highest level. And I would kind of count myself somewhere in there. I'm not saying I'm anywhere near the best at the game, but I can go through absolute, and, you know, I would say the vast majority of the time I'm going to clear an operation. And really it just comes down to if we get dicked around by the game director, if I'm going to go down or the majority of my teammates are even going to go down. But the other thing, like I said, is, you know, aside from seeing less and less teammates go down, I would say the other problem that I run into with the assault is just with the other perk in particular, picking up the armor boost. A lot of times if I'm playing with somebody who's like the Vanguard or the Sniper, where I see somebody struggling a little bit, I find that I'm more keen to let them maybe pick up stuff like med kits or armor boosts. So unless I'm running a mission by myself just to test out like a particular set of perks or a new weapon, I would say it's very infrequent that I'm actually grabbing armor boost. And so I think, again, for me personally, it's just something where I'm not getting a whole lot of use out of that particular perk. But the other thing too is, as fun as it is to jump up in the air and just smash everything, or just even on the ground dropping the thunder hammer and, you know, watching everything around you immediately get eviscerated and destroyed, I just find that a couple of the other classes just do mob clearing so much better. And I think that's kind of another reason I don't pick assault is, you know, if I'm using like the heavy and let's say I have on the multi-melta, I can clear out, you know, large groups of enemies rather easily, same as I could, you know, using the ground pound with the assault. But I'm also not putting myself in a situation in that where, you know, maybe I'm just going to be forced to tank a whole bunch of range damage. And again, as somebody who's been running into just a lot of ranged enemies, there are times where it just gets frustrating because I know it's not anything I'm doing inherently wrong, but there are just times where, you know, I'll go into an engagement and just watch my health bar get absolutely wrecked, really due to stuff that's outside of my control. But again, the assault, I still feel it's fun. It's just when it comes to a melee style class, I do enjoy the bulwark a lot more. And again, that's something I really want to emphasize is, if fun was a continuum, all these classes are on the positive end of it, but some I just naturally find myself gravitating more towards. And currently that's everything other than the tactical and the assault. Again, there's nothing wrong with these classes, and you know, if I'm ever feeling like, I'm a little bored, or I just grinded out one in particular to like Prestige 4, it is nice to throw them on from time to time just to mix things up. But I've definitely seen myself kind of moving away from using them. For the tactical, I don't think there's really anything that needs changed about the class. I still feel it's one of the better classes in the game. But again, for me, it just kind of fills that general default kind of role, which again, it has a role within the game. I don't want to see them do anything to do that. It's nice to see newer players have something that they can just go right in and pick up and play around with and have fun. For the assault, again, for me personally, it's just kind of walking that thin line of how do we keep a class fair and balanced without leaning too far into making it overpowered and busted. And that's where, for me personally, I think if some of the prestige perks were reworked a little bit, I might be a little bit more willing to kind of run it more often. But overall, yeah, those are my thoughts on it. You know, let me know what classes, if any, that you've started using less, or did the prestige system maybe make you fall out of love with a class? Again, for myself, I love all of them equally. I think they're all extremely fun to play. But I did notice that once the prestige mode came out, it really only kind of further pushed me towards some of the main classes that I already play. But thank you all for watching. Just to let everyone know, I am on vacation currently, so as you're watching this, I'll actually be outside of the US. I am going to try and upload at least one video per week, and then once I get back in 2 weeks, try to go back to doing it at least 2 every week. But as always, thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you next time.